Hello, this is the start of a new series about Mercury through the houses, and I thought we'd just talk about Mercury a little bit first and get to know what it actually indicates. So, in the natural zodiac, Mercury rules uh, third house and sixth house, Gemini and Virgo. So they're both of them are actually dual houses. One is air sign, Gemini. The other one is an earth sign, which is Virgo. So they're both very, very important houses. They're both Upachaya houses, which means they're big time, and once you start working with them, they start to get better. And this is really very much indicative of what Mercury is, because Sun is the king, Moon is the queen, and this is their son, their child. So there is, wherever we have in our charts Mercury, we are slightly immature about it, because obviously this is about young children, kids, youth, adolescents, students. So this is all very much about the process of growing and things in wherever. Then once we apply ourselves, things get better. So there is a naivety about the house that Mercury resides in our chart. So I thought we'd just have a look and just see, what kind of things are indications for Mercury. So Mercury is obviously communication, because it rules the third house of natural zodiac. So you're born in the first, in the second one, obviously you're with family, you start to speak. And then third house is you start to move, express yourself, communicate what your needs are. So it's very much about self-expression, and you start using your hands and gestures. So as a baby, you see that they know what it is to say goodbye. They just, if they don't like something, they can use their hands and just like push the food away if they don't want to. So it's very much about like learning to let the others how you are feeling, and that actually never leaves you. And we know, all of us in life, that people who have the most fulfilling lives and relationships are the people who can actually express themselves fully, let the people know they kind of know, they know their own boundaries. They just know how, when things doesn't sound right, they can just communicate it. And those are friends and family members that we respect most, because we know that if they don't want to do anything, they can't be persuaded really, and they know themselves, they know their mind. Sometimes they're a little bit willful, but nonetheless, though, it's not a bad thing. So it actually rules Mercury rules friends, siblings, communication, any form of communication, rules the arts, rules things like intellect. I think Sun is intelligence and Mars is logic, but Mercury is practical and intellectual, and that's, I think, one of the things that Sage Gemini says about the sixth house, is that it's an important sign of the zodiac, because it's like literally how you get by day to day, how you manage yourself, manage your life, manage your money. Without a good Mercury, people can hoard, people can't, they just cannot, they become like victims of their own weakness, if you like, in relationships, in jobs, etc., where they can't express themselves, and people think that they're okay with the status quo, and then there's just misunderstanding going on there. So it is a very, very important thing. But obviously, both third and sixth house, there are Upachaya houses, so they do get better with time. But generally speaking, because it rules friends, neighbours, siblings, and your colleagues as well, so it's literally is how we kind of interact with people, friendships, associates, those kind of things are all very mercurial things. Mercury rules currency, stock exchange, stock market. It any kind of work which is paperwork, like clerical work, learning, students, schools, any form of travel, moving around, exercise, being active, being out and about, hobbies and interests. I mean, it's such an important planet. Jobs to do with computer as well, so any form of technology, mobile phones, computers, satellite dishes, anything like that is all to do with graphic design, marketing, visual arts generally, things you make with your hands, any form of talents and skills, courses that you do to learn things that then they can apply to your life. All of those are to do with your third house, which is all to do with Mercury. So Mercury is siblings, and obviously in the third house, it's also your will and your bravery as well, because this is when you've been born, you start to talk, then you start to express yourself, and you start to become brave. This is probably the time when your brother or sister, younger or older brother and sister, they come and take your toy away, and you have to fight for your toy, because this is like, no, this is mine. So you have to be brave and tell the person no, set boundaries and allow them, or if they do something wrong, you kind of brave it and say, don't do it, don't touch my toy, don't eat my sweets, things like that. So it's that kind of thing as well. It says also it rules fast food, because it's a fast moving planet, and so this is when you meet up with friends, go for a cafe, go to their coffee shop, have a coffee, and maybe an express sort of food like sandwiches and pizza. All those sort of takeaway foods, fast foods, are all ruled by Mercury. So, and it's obviously travel, but short distance travel is ruled by Mercury. And so this is the reason why when you're actually working, because Mercury likes to be busy, and is curious as a planet. So when you actually get really stuck on a project, it's really good to start moving. Just go for a short walk or make yourself a drink and just move around a little bit, and that kind of helps Mercury, develop things. It's strong in the first house, so it gets directional strength in the first house. But it also means that in the first house there is things that needs to be developed, because wherever Mercury is in our chart, that's where we are a little bit young about it, a bit naive and immature maybe even about it, because we don't really, it's a young thing, it's a young planet, and it needs to develop over time, and things just get better with time. However, in the first house, it will always have that real focus. From there, it will be aspecting your seventh house, so it indicates that you want to be with somebody, because Mercury also rules games and having fun, doing fun things, comedy, being comedic, jokes, things like that. So it likes a bit of banter. And so when it's aspect in the seventh house, you want to be with somebody who maybe was your friend, you can be friendly with, you can chat to, you can have a laugh with, and do like fun things together, like go to dance classes together, or you go to, I don't know, go to walking groups, or just kind of interact, go to the cinema together, travel together quite a lot. They like that. They like somebody who's active. They go maybe to hikes and go skiing together and things like that. So these will be very important to them. And it also rules kind of interaction in terms of business and commerce. It's all ruled by by Mercury as well. Mercury does make the person, particularly if it's strong in their chart, multi-talented, because they want to know a little bit about everything. And you find that when you have Mercury Dasha or Mahadasha, as Mahadasha or the Subdasha, Antardasha, you actually get interested in all forms of different things. If it falls like in your, because it's data and information, and particularly if it falls in your 8th house during a Dasha, you want to do research to gain more information. You're just hungry for information. And it rules as a planet, obviously 3rd house rules your hands, your arms and shoulders, and in the 6th house rules your digestive system. And so, and the Mercury in the first house or anything like that will actually, you also kind of notice that he has got third and sixth house indications as well, but obviously in different houses that house indications will come into it as well. So Mercury does really well obviously in Gemini because it rules Gemini, and it also rules Virgo. Virgo is not just own house, but at 15 degrees is actually also the exaltation degree of Mercury. And from 15 to 20 degrees, it's actually, I probably say the rest of it, it's like more Trachona sign, which means like the head office of very comfortable there. And it also is debilitated in Pisces. And obviously, you know, Mercury is friendly with the Sun, Venus and Saturn and Rahu, Ketu. But it very much struggles with Jupiter and also with Mars. These are the two planets that are not good with for Mercury. Mercury does, if it is close to Saturn, it will have issues because obviously it means that it develops even later. There's a shyness about it, has difficulty expressing itself, and there's always like, particularly because it is also a planet that's it's an earthy planet, even though it rules an air sign and an earth sign, but generally speaking it is an earthy sign. It likes material things, and so when it is in earthy signs, it can have a jealousy issue as well, because it is the green-eyed thing as well, you know, because it's immature about things, so it can have like those things as well. So so generally speaking though, if it is in an earthy sign or in earthy planet nakshatras, person has got to really work in order to move forward, not to actually be hung up on what other people have or what other people did, and actually just free themselves of all that and then just move themselves forward. Because when you work with Mercury really well, Mercury gives you a lot of things in life because it's a fun planet, and why wouldn't you want to have all the fun in your life? So, and obviously this is going to be about a sort of like a Mercury that's not in conjunction or aspected by any planets. I'm just going to give you the purest form, and it naturally also rules the skin and rules respiratory system and also your nervous system and allergies. So you often find when it is either in transit or in a dasha, or if in your chart naturally is actually in, say, in Jupiter sign or in Mars signs. In Mars, it will give you inflammation of the skin, so you have to really kind of, as with anything, it gets better with time. You know, because Mars is impulsive, and obviously this is Mercury's planet of speech, so it can give you reactive, impulsive speech. You say things without thinking, because that's what Mars does. You know, sort of agitates Mercury, and that can happen with conjunction, aspect, or Mercury sitting in Mars's sign. So that can happen. That can happen the opposite as well if Mars is in Mercury signs too. When it is with Jupiter, or in Jupiter nakshatras, or in Jupiter signs, or Jupiter also in Mercury signs, they're opposites, and they really are very different agenda. So Mercury is a bit gossipy, and it's a little bit fickle because it's a planet of fast moving. It's young, and obviously, you know, Jupiter is wisdom, the wise one, the older one, you know. So and so there is like a gender issue there. So that can also, because also what happens with Jupiter expands everything as well. So you'll find that the person who has that, they can't stop talking. And sometimes even if it's happening in, like, say, for example, in transit, you can't help yourself but just like over talking. It's such a chatty, or if Rahu does the same thing, expands like the speech, but not in a bad way. But with Jupiter it does, because Jupiter just can't stop it, because it expands it. And Jupiter can be a little bit like what's the Jupiter is a little bit like I know best kind of thing. So it gives that kind of it projects that onto Mercury as well, so things come out like that. And sometimes it creates problems with the nervous system. And obviously because Jupiter rules liver, we can actually start having liver issues. So we have to be careful about those kind of things. Be just working on our planets, because remember, our planets are us. It's how we. So once you can actually work with wisdom with everything. But I really do think it's a wonderful, wonderful way to use your chart really well to your advantage. So. Obviously, because it rules your respiratory system, some of the remedies with Mercury are really easy. So I think Mercury always does better if you got afflicted Mercury, is to always be aware that you need to exercise, you need to be active, and you need to spend time with friends and cousins as well, because six houses, cousins and aunts and things like that. So. And you just want to be like, so do connect with people, do join groups if they are interested in cooking, do a cooking class, carpentry, things like that, because they can be very multi-talented. And it really does you good to do some breathing exercises, meditation, yoga, things like that, but particularly breathing, just learning to breathe. And because it rules the respiratory system, and that really, the oxygenation really helps your digestive system, because it rules the digestive system. And normally Mercury, sixth house Mercury has got issues, but if it's or sixth house or Mercury, or it gives you digestive issues. So you can have all those things like candida and Crohn's disease and things like that can occur because of that. So by oxygenating and slowing things down, it can really help. Just taking, using the best in best things in life. So just wanted to say also, so wherever Mercury is, it will also aspect 7 houses away only. That's the only time. And so what will happen is those areas of your life, you do well to share them with friends. And it kind of, because it's also a benefic planet, it really helps kind of have an approach with it that that things will improve. Mercury is the only planet that changes its nature according to the planets that it sits with. So if it's conjunct malefics like Rahu, Ketu, Sun, Mars or Saturn, it does become malefic. And also, so its nature can be a little bit negative. And also the other thing I wanted to say was that it's I only take 8 degrees away from the sun as a combustion, because it's a planet that is friendly with the sun and travels with the sun and Venus normally. So therefore, it can actually work really, really well with the sun, as long as within 8 degrees. Obviously, if it's retrograde, then you have to really kind of take maybe 10 degrees. But generally speaking, it does work okay with the sun. It gives good intelligence as long as both of them are ruling good houses for you. But yeah, so the house that they're in, they're definitely going to be, if it is on its own, then it's going to be really good. So anyway, that's about Mercury. Thank you. Mercury in the 8th house. I'm just going to go through the indications of the 8th house again, and obviously I've done videos for that before, but just going through. So this is massively house of research. This is where you dig deep. It's a very deep, dark waters, basically. So you've got to get in there and you've got to research things and be discerning. It's all about the spies and spying. It could also be a house of trolls as well. It'll be a house of taxes, accountants, or maybe even taxes accountants if it's to do with your 10th house. It's also to do with inheritance, lottery wins, or sudden wins or sudden gains, that kind of thing. And it'll be basically it's a house of sudden changes. So accidents, divorce, operations or surgery, strategic planning. So this is ruled by K2 and Mars. So there's a very precision, logical way of dealing with things, and planning it as such. It's a house of scandals, fears, control, not being able to let go. It's emotional issues, really, in a sense, things we can't get rid of. This is why it's also to do with psychology, psychotherapy, all those healing things as well. So, but also the occults, esoteric sciences, and astrology, things like that. And obviously it's ruled by K2, co-ruled by K2, and so you can understand there is like something that it could be reincarnations, things like that too, previous karma from previous life as well, in a sense, because it's to do with Scorpio. And it also rules things like, as I said, control. And obviously if this falls, like somebody, for example, like Taurus ascendant, they're the actual 7th house is Scorpio. So they could actually, if Mars is in a bad condition or your ascendant is not strong, you could actually attract very, very controlling partners. So you have to be really careful with things like that. Wherever it falls in your chart, you really need to just be aware of it, and really be able to let go in order to manifest better things in that house. So it's obviously to do with criminals and just criminal underworld, anything to do with that. It's house of sexual abuse, sexual control, sexual scandals, taboo things. It's house of your in-laws, your partner's income. It's also from the 4th house. This is the 5th house. So this could also be you. So it could be like 5th house, so your mum's children, which is you. And you can see the type of in-laws you'll have by just looking at your 8th house and 8th lord. It's as I said, it's your partner's income, but it's also their values as well. It's chronic illness. So 6th house is acute illness, and this 8th house is 3 houses away from it, 6th, 7th, 8th. So it just means that the effort you put into healing yourself before it becomes chronic. So this is how you can see that too. And then is 8th house is also 12th houses from your 9th house. So this is all the pain and difficulties and transformations, difficult things you go through, and then you become enlightened and you go into the 9th house. And so it's literally this is how you transform and let go of really difficult things that are holding you down. And then you transform and go into the 9th house, which is like house of, luck, happiness, and being close to God. And your belief system changes when you go through 8th house stuff. So it creates that nice change for you to bring fresh air and fresh energy into your life. It's you always look at the opposite house for remedies to do with this. So remedy for the 8th house will be 2nd house stuff. So it will be like family, making good choices. 2nd house is making choices which are right by you, and actually family, close family and very close friends. So that would be like trusting yourself as well to be able to make those changes. When Mercury, planet of intellect and planning, a really, really good organizer, really practical planet comes into this sign, this is the only planet I think that does really, really well in the 8th house. I don't know, you know, malefics generally do well, like Saturn gives you longevity. Sun is also another malefic that can actually whiz through the issues of that. But, you know, this is Mercury that's like, it's able to get the information and really be discerning, really be systematic, practical, and it's a planet that can deal with the information and research it really thoroughly, and it's able to compartmentalize as well, very rational in that sense. So it's amazing. It does really, really well. So in the dasha that I am in now, my Mercury is in the 8th house, and I've always, because I've got planet in the 8th house, I've always been really into research. I like to know what's going on, but I'm massively into it now, and I'm just getting, and I don't trust anything to do with the literally the mainstream stuff. I don't trust any of it, and I don't know why I don't trust it. I just, since the beginning of this dasha, I have just had a bad feeling about it. I think it's probably because I wasn't really that much into it before, but the more I listened to it, the more I was thinking they're tripping up on they've told so many lies that they're tripping up on it now. And if you go back and listen to all the information we've had past 2 years, you know, they just literally tell you to do one thing, and then the following month something else, and the following month something else. It is just total, as they say in the UK, it's total cobblers, really. So yeah, and that Mercury has allowed me to really research and find different ways of getting information that I probably wouldn't have even noticed these things previously. I would have never looked into them, but that has been just the most amazing thing, because what it's done is awakened me, and because I think I was in a very deep sleep, and that awakening has really helped me travel into my 9th house through that easier. And I've managed to connect with people masses of people who are all the same as me, on the same journey, completely awakened, really, really going into walking together into the 5D, and actually we're learning that we can manifest things much easier now, and it's like a collective. And we realize that if things we've kicked in our intuition and pineal gland activation as well, which I do have a video on that if you want to watch that. And because we all need to do that collectively, we need to wake up, carry each other forward, because the earth that we're going to have from May onwards this year is going to be so totally different. We're really going to be feeling very empowered, but we need all our brothers and sisters to wake up as well, to just like realize that we've been controlled for a long time. This is why the last solar eclipse of 2021 was in Scorpio, and it was in Jeshta, Mercury. It's all to do with media and control that we've had, and all the lies and all the scandals that are coming through just now. So very, very good to just watch that video too, and we can collectively walk through the doors together, really. So it's going to be so amazing. Yeah, so this is very good placement. If anybody has it, it's amazing. Now I'm going to tell you a little secret as well. There is a chart called D11, but there are two of them. There's a normal D11, which is like your 11th house chart, you know, like you got your D1, D9, D7, D10, blah blah. And but the one for D11, but the Aya, which is IYER, which is a sage, you know, a different way of calculating your D11, sorry, which is like your 11th house actually calculated. And in this one, this is how you can see if, for example, a leader or yourself or something, you know, gets the job. If some people who like during elections or whatever it is, you know, you can see. So, or if you're going for a job or whatever, that shows you if that dasha is actually going to work with you. So anyway, yeah, it's really cute. So you can actually look at that. And if you have got Mercury in the 8th house there, you will have at some level, when that gets kicked in your dashas and things, you can actually have a really good sudden gain. So whether you have your tax rebate, or you can also have tax rebate, or say, for example, inheritance or lottery or something like that can happen during that. So also in dashas, if you get Mercury in the 8th house, this is a really good position. I really think, make the most of it and just be really open-minded, because if, particularly, I mean, this is good if Mercury is particularly in a good house, like own house, 8th house, or friendly house, like Venus signs or Saturn signs. It will be a little bit more difficult. You have to just practice discernment and really be aware of information. If it is in Jupiter's sign, because it can expand too much and it can make the, particularly in Pisces, it can make the person really sort of not be able to manage the information so well. But you will gradually work with it, and during that dasha it becomes better. And also in Mars' sign, because obviously they're not friendly towards each other. But yeah, it's a quite nice placement. So if you have it, excellent. Enjoy it, and just know that that wonderful intellect and practicality of Mercury is really serving you right. So thank you very much, and I'll see you soon. Oh, that's another thing. And don't forget, any of us can have that in the 8th house during one of our dashas. So it's not exclusive to anyone. We can all enjoy that. Thank you.